You can write the show, crafting every line of dialogue, every plot twist. You can star in it, embodying the character, breathing life into the story. You can pour years of your life into a story, nurturing it from a seedling of an idea to a fully realized world. Become the face of a phenomenon, gracing magazine covers, captivating audiences worldwide, and still own none of it. Despite your dedication, your passion, your very essence poured into the project, not a single frame of the moving picture you helped bring to life. Not a single character, whose quirks and nuances you painstakingly developed. Not even the font on the poster. The very letters used to promote your creation. How can the creator not be the owner? How can the architect of a world be denied its keys? This isn't a loophole, it's the foundation of Hollywood. A deeply ingrained system. The people we celebrate as creators are, in legal terms, just highly skilled employees. Cogs in a much larger machine. They're hired to generate valuable assets for a much larger entity, assets that will generate revenue for years to come. The system ensures that individual genius, that spark of creativity, ultimately serves the corporate machine. A machine designed for profit, not necessarily artistic fulfillment. Why don't creators control their worlds? What prevents them from owning their narratives? Because they sign a contract, one that almost always says work for hire. A seemingly innocuous clause with profound implications. This legal concept transfers authorship from the individual to the corporation, effectively erasing the creator's claim, making the studio the author in the eyes of the law. The studio becomes the sole owner of the intellectual property. Artists are paid for their time and talent, a one-time fee for their invaluable contribution, but not for the enduring value of what they create. They don't share in the long-term success or profits. Imagine designing a world-famous skyscraper, pouring your heart and soul into its design, but never seeing a dime from its rent, never benefiting from its continued use and appreciation. You got your fee, and that was the deal. A seemingly fair exchange, but with lasting consequences. Hollywood applies this principle to culture itself, commodifying creativity on a grand scale, turning stories into assets, transforming art into commodities. That can be bought, sold, and exploited, milked for every possible dollar. Long after the original creators are gone, their contributions forgotten, their ownership erased. The paradox: you can create a legend, a cultural touchstone, but you may never own it. The legend belongs to someone else. Work for hire sounds harmless, almost benign. It suggests a fair exchange of labor for compensation. But in Hollywood, it's a legal sledgehammer, a tool that reshapes the landscape of creative ownership. It's a term that carries significant weight and implications for anyone involved in the entertainment industry. Under U.S. copyright law, the concept of work for hire has a very specific and powerful meaning. If a work is made for hire, the employer, not the creator, owns the copyright from day one. The individual who conceived the idea, wrote the script, or designed the characters essentially relinquishes all rights to their creation. The studio is the author, at least in the eyes of the law. The creator never owned it, and never will, unless the studio decides to relinquish those rights, which is a rare occurrence. This system evolved to solve a problem for studios, a problem that's inherent in the very nature of their business: risk. Film and TV are expensive gambles requiring massive upfront investments with no guarantee of success. Studios need to own the asset outright, completely and unequivocally. To justify the investment, they need to control every aspect of the intellectual property. Work-for-hire contracts are their insurance policy, a safety net against future claims, ensuring no creator can later claim a bigger piece of the pie, demanding additional royalties or control, or take their characters elsewhere, potentially disrupting lucrative franchises. For most writers and directors, especially those starting out, there's often no alternative. Turning down work-for-hire means turning down the job and potentially jeopardizing their career. The power dynamic is clear, a stark imbalance of leverage. One person with an idea, a spark of creativity, versus a corporation with all the resources, the legal might, and the distribution networks. The contract is a take-it-or-leave-it proposition, a non-negotiable agreement, a pair of golden handcuffs, offering financial security in exchange for creative freedom. Studios hold all the cards. They control the future of the intellectual property, including sequels, extending the story and characters in new installments, spin-offs, creating new shows or movies based on popular characters or storylines, reboots, reimagining the entire franchise for a new generation, merchandise, generating revenue through toys, apparel, and other branded products. The original creator might be invited back as a consultant, offering their insights and expertise, but has no legal power over the property's future. Their input is merely advisory. They've traded ownership for a one-time fee and a credit, a fleeting recognition of their contribution. In the end, they're a ghost in their own machine, watching their creation evolve without them. Studios aren't just in the business of making movies anymore. That's just one piece of a much larger puzzle. They're strategically building empires of intellectual property, vast and interconnected networks of characters, stories, and worlds. A hit film is nice, a box office smash is certainly welcome. But a global, multi-generational IP, something that resonates across cultures and endures through time, is the real prize, the ultimate goal. The movie itself is increasingly viewed as just the first and often the most expensive advertisement for the IP. It's the launching pad. The real, sustainable profit, the kind that keeps the lights on for years to come, comes from what happens after the credits roll. Think merchandise, from action figures to apparel. Licensing, allowing other companies to use your characters and stories. Video games, interactive experiences that extend the narrative. And of course, theme parks, immersive worlds where fans can live inside their favorite stories. Think of Batman, an icon for decades, or Mickey Mouse, a symbol recognized around the globe. Money flows in year after year, even without a new movie hitting theaters. It's a constant stream of revenue. Owning the IP lets studios build entire ecosystems around a single creation, creating a self-sustaining and ever-expanding universe. It also, perhaps more coldly, makes talent replaceable. If an actor or writer leaves or becomes difficult, the studio still owns the world, and crucially, the characters. Don't want to pay your star more, or meet their demands? Recast the role. Reboot the entire franchise. The IP, the underlying concept, is immortal. This strategy, this relentless pursuit of IP, drives Hollywood's endless sequels, spin-offs, exploring every corner of the established universe. And of course, reboots, reimagining familiar stories for new generations. It's not necessarily a lack of creativity, though some might argue that point. It's a calculated business move, a strategic decision driven by data and projections. Why risk millions or even hundreds of millions on something entirely new when a pre-existing franchise guarantees a built-in global audience? Studios minimize risk and maximize long-term profit by owning and controlling valuable intellectual property. It's about security and predictability. Every dollar, from ticket sales to toy purchases, ultimately flows back to the castle, reinforcing the studio's power. In Hollywood, and increasingly in the broader entertainment landscape, ownership is everything. It's the key to long-term success and enduring influence. The streaming age promised freedom for creators, but often made ownership problems worse. In the old days, syndication meant ongoing royalties for creators. Now, streaming services pay a buyout fee and keep the rest. There's no syndication, no reruns, just a show living on a platform, with creators at the mercy of the streamer's accounting. Some receive residual checks for pennies, even as millions watch their work. Tony Gilroy, showrunner for Andor, shaped a hit series but owns none of it. Disney holds all the cards. When his work ends, the world and characters remain Disney's property. Even at the highest levels, work for hire is absolute. Worse, streamers can erase shows entirely for tax write-offs, locking away years of work in a digital vault. Imagine your show vanishing forever, with no power to stop it. The creator can't fight to keep it available. They don't own it. It's the ultimate corporate control. Not just owning your work, but erasing it. In the streaming era, creators are more disconnected from their art than ever. The system feels unsustainable, and Hollywood's writers and actors overwhelmingly agree. The 2023 strikes weren't just about pay, they were a fight for a fair share of the value that their hard work creates, especially with the rise of streaming. Writers demanded residuals based on viewership metrics, pushing for much greater transparency from streaming giants. Actors fought shrinking residuals and the looming threat of AI. Studios wanted to scan and permanently own digital replicas of performers. The strikes drew a clear line in the sand. Creators simply won't accept being treated as disposable. New contracts brought some gains, but didn't fully overturn work for hire. Studios still own the IP. The fight was a powerful reminder. Studios may own the physical property, but creators ultimately give it a soul. Some creators are choosing independence, financing projects outside the studio system to keep ownership. It's risky and often means smaller budgets, but the reward is creative control and true ownership. Crowdfunding and indie filmmaking allow for more daring, personal work, answering to audiences, not corporations. But new digital threats loom. AI can generate scripts and performances, often trained on creators' work without permission. Who owns an AI-generated script in a famous writer's style? The law is unclear. AI can replicate voices and faces, raising questions about identity and consent. The fight for ownership now includes the right to your own likeness. In the digital age, the battle is for creative and personal sovereignty. You can create the show and still own none of it. Work for hire is the legal bedrock separating creators from their creations. Studios aren't buying scripts, they're acquiring assets to monetize for decades. The system makes talent interchangeable, the IP is immortal. Creators get a fee and a fleeting spotlight, then watch their work live on without them. The recent strikes showed a growing demand for respect, transparency, and a fair share. The fight for better residuals and AI protections is about creators sharing in the value they generate. But the core ownership structure remains, a challenge for the next generation. When creators have a stake, they protect the art. When they don't, the asset comes first. In a world of digital ghosts and corporate empires, if you don't own your work, you might not own your future.